Hey y'all, it's Elizabeth Weimler. I know it's been a little bit, but I am coming at you with a new Who's in the News for this month, and I think you'll find it interesting. So I decided to do someone that's in the news. It's not a pregnancy, it's not a marriage. I know I tend to do those a lot, and it's not a death. Those are the three I seem to do a lot. So today I want to look at Sam Bankman-Fried, and for those that don't know him, he's an entrepreneur, he's an investor and founder and former CEO of FTX, which is a cryptocurrency exchange. He's also co-founder of Alameda Research, which is also former, still co-founder, but that company is currently filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy along with the FTX cryptocurrency exchange. So I thought he'd be interesting to look at, see what's in his chart, because he went from, kind of nobody to super in the news. So let's take a look. He was born March 6th of 1992 in Palo Alto, California. I will say no time of birth, so ignore the time of birth on this chart. I just did it so that we could use the moon as the ascendant, as you can see here. So I made it so it's easy to see, easy for the houses, but we are using the moon as his ascendant, and we're going to see what it shows us. So he's got the moon in his first house, so Pisces is his first house, and this really, moon in the first can really give a life that has many, unpredictable turns and events. He can have constant changes in daily activities. He's someone who's curious and can be really out of the ordinary. He is someone that's really likely to seek change and new experiences. He's not going to be content just like staying in one place. He can really have this unbalanced spending where he can go from very frugal to very lavish. And he's someone who can be idealistic and very visionary. Mercury is also in the first house with his moon. And Mercury in the first house really gives this capacity for him to learn and process information constantly. Communication can be a big part of his life because that's Mercury in the first, and Mercury is the planet of communication. But I will say Mercury in Pisces is weak. So he's going to have to work harder to communicate at times. He may not always be as clear as he thinks he's being in his head because Mercury is with the moon and the moon is the mind. So he can be good with words, both written and spoken. He can really have a sense of humor. He can take a mathematical or scientific approach to life. And as a result of, the moon and Mercury placements, he can be hard to please and his mind may operate and go too fast at times. At times, he could really, pursue things of superficial value. He could have trouble thinking through the practical aspects of situations. And the moon and Mercury being conjunct can indicate that he can have this be creative in his scientific or analytical methods, which can be, a strength at times and also a potential hindering factor for him. But he can be, innovative, but also have an overactive imagination. When we look at rulerships, Jupiter does rule his first house and goes to his sixth house of Leo. And what this really can indicate is someone who's willing to work hard and long hours. He can have the ability to deal with opposition and adversity. He could get into debt, lawsuits, or have personal attacks against him. When we look at other rulerships, Mercury rules his seventh house of partnerships, and it's in the first house, indicating that partnerships are going to be an important part throughout his life, and he can be really skilled at relating to others. The moon rules his fifth house of Cancer, and being in the first really indicates that intelligence and mental focus, which could give him prominence in life. It could also bring issues with the government or leaders of large corporations, so that's something he's going to have to watch because it can bring those issues. It can also bring potential tax problems. But both the moon and Mercury are in the lunar mansion of Uttara Bhadrapada, indicating that he can be disciplined with his writing and speaking abilities. He can have really good problem-solving abilities, and he can be drawn to the unknown. Cryptocurrency, when it started, was very unknown. We just didn't know about it. So the one thing he does need to watch is he needs to be cautious, as he can sometimes get too focused on his own outcome. In his fourth house of Gemini, which is this house opposite the first house over here in this right corner, it's really, in this fourth house is the node of the moon, K2. K2 here can indicate that he really possesses a mind that's creative and full of new ideas. He really has this ability to do subtle analysis. He could feel a loss around the home and family. K2 does not do well in the fourth house. It's kind of the opposite energy of what the fourth house wants. K2 is in the lunar mansion of Ardra, and this can indicate him being quick acting with a good memory. He can come across as arrogant at times, so he's going to need to watch that. But it can bring with it, potential for career ups and downs in this lunar mansion. It can really make him someone who will create havoc where he goes. And in the process, he could potentially destroy himself, but he can be really good at creating things out of this destruction. Of this fourth house, the Mercury is the ruler of it, and it goes to the first house where we just were. And this can really indicate a desire to secure a good home. He could benefit through real estate, but he could get too focused on trying to create security at times. So it just becomes this kind of opposite energy. In his sixth house of Leo is Jupiter. Jupiter in the sixth house really shows this capacity to overcome his opponents. He's someone who may face problems with optimism. He can be very clever at protecting his interests, but he could be prone to having excess weight or fluid in his body. So that's something that he's going to have to manage. He really has the ability to lead others, and he can be very idealistic with creative writing abilities. For him, he's not someone who likes to be shunned or rebuked. He could be prone to having kind of this overblown image of himself and thinking higher of himself than maybe he should. At his time of birth, interestingly enough, Jupiter was retrograde, and this it can be good. He can be very good in a hard situation, and that he, is someone who's going to pay attention. He's not going to pay attention to how things won't work. So he's just going to go full steam ahead and figure it out. He's not going to let people tell him it won't work. Sun rules his sixth house, and the sun goes to his 12th house, which kind of indicates he can ultimately overcome problems, but he could at times have this very reckless nature about him. So he's going to need to be aware of that, stay in tune with that factor. Jupiter is in the lunar mansion of Purva Falguni, indicating this ability to communicate and influence with others. Again, this lunar mansion, it can indicate him being reckless and focused too much on getting what he wants. So he does need to watch out for extremes, and he has this potential to get a large family inheritance. In his 10th house of Sagittarius is the node of the moon, Rahu. So we just did K2 in the 4th, Rahu's in the 10th, because they are always opposite each other. Rahu in the 10th can indicate this real drive and power that brings success quickly, but there can be consequences along the way. So success could come from an unusual career related to technology. He could have this really deep-seated insecurity to prove himself. For him, it may have very much been that in childhood, the message could have been that, he was nothing without money and hard work. He may do, work that's unusual or secret or confidential, and he could be prone to issues with his father. So I know nothing about his relationship, but there is a potential for that with Rahu in the 10th house. There could be times where he's confused about his life purpose. So it could be this, I know where I want to go, but then all of a sudden it's like, I don't really know what I'm here to do. Jupiter rules his 10th house and goes to the 6th house, and that can indicate that he could be paid well for tackling tough tasks. He's someone who is going to have to work hard. He does need to be cautious because he could have this, desire to live above his means, and he needs to watch his debt levels throughout life. Rahu is in the lunar mansion of Mula, which he can have a passionate nature where he wants to get to the bottom of things. He can be good at research. He at times can have this real compulsive behaviors. So he needs to watch that. But for him, material fortunes could be stripped away until he kind of learns that lesson of non-attachment, which will lead him down a more spiritual path in life. In this lunar mansion, he can be, very skillful in persuading others to help with his goals and objectives. And he's also someone who may tell others what they want to hear in order to get what he wants. His 11th house, he has a lot in his 11th house right here. He has Mars, Saturn, and Venus. Mars is in its sign of exaltation, Capricorn, which says it's very strong. Saturn is in its own sign right now. And then you've got Venus thrown in there. So Mars here can indicate that, great wealth can come from his career because of his drive and ambition. He can have quick gains of wealth, which we just saw with the cryptocurrency. He went from, very little money, basically, in comparison to billions of dollars. So quick gains of wealth. He also lost that wealth very quickly, but he can have links to influential people. He's someone who will work to make his goals and ambitions come true. He really has this ability to act quickly and he can have high energy, and he's not one to be defeated. He's someone that's going to be very focused on results, and he may take calculated risks throughout his life. Sometimes they'll pay off, sometimes they won't. That's why they are calculated risks. He can be charming and cunning, but he may think it's okay to take things from others. Saturn in his 11th house can indicate he may have friends from childhood that are close to him, but he's not likely to be someone who has superficial friends. He can pursue opportunities in a very structured and prudent manner. Remember, Saturn is hard work, discipline, structure, and in its own sign, it's going to be even more so. He's very hardworking, very serious. He knows what is necessary to know, and he really has this capacity to work or be alone as required. So he maybe, will shut himself in and not want to be around people at times. He is someone that may withhold information, so to kind of fit his security needs. Venus in the 11th house really can indicate that success can come easily for him. His father may have been helpful throughout his life, and he can be very inventive. He does need to watch out. He could spend too much on pleasure, and he may love solitude, but he could come across, with Venus and Saturn connected, he could come across as very cold and unfeeling at times. Excuse me. Mars rules his, like when we start looking at rulership, Mars rules his second house up here. And in the 11th house, it really can indicate that money can come in large sums. Ruler of the second and the 11th is a very powerful placement for money, because it connects the two houses of money. So it becomes a powerful yoga, which is just a connection of planets. He can have plenty of opportunities in his life, and he's always going to seem to have some chance to make money. He can have cash flow that's more connected to his voice, food, or money management. Mars also rules his 9th house, and being in the 11th house can indicate that he can get, fortunate circumstances and great opportunities involved with his career and reputation. For him, Venus rules the 3rd house up here, and being in the 11th house, it can indicate that his efforts will lead to greater opportunities. So the more he puts in, the more opportunities he's going to receive. But he does need to watch his management of money. Again, so this is a theme within this one. He can find success through sales as well. Venus also rules his 8th house. And again, being in the 11th house, this can indicate that he needs to be careful not to share intimate information. He could make money as a researcher or investigator. He could have trouble keeping money around is one of the potentials with this. So it's going to go in different phases. It's going to ebb and flow. It's going to depend on the cycle he's at planetary wise in his life. Saturn does rule his 11th house and is in its own sign, which can indicate that friends could sometimes kind of disappoint him and not be around when he needs them. He may need to be cautious not to depend on them too much or on influential people for advancement. He can enjoy charitable organizations and helping the underdog. And when we look at lunar mansions, so lunar mansions, as we've kind of discussed in other videos, if you don't know them, I should have started with that, but 27 lunar mansions, and they kind of break the 12 zodiac signs into smaller chunks of the zodiac. But Mars and Saturn are in the lunar mansion of Shravana, which indicates that he has this desire, to have knowledge and information. He can be very intellectual. Venus is in the lunar mansion of Dhanishta, indicating that he has this ability to earn a good living. He's motivated to accomplish things and develop his career. He does need to be cautious, as he could withhold information or understate matters. So he may make bad situations seem not as bad. And he may make good situations seem not as good. So he needs to watch that. Understating matters can go either direction. He's not someone that is going to enjoy being told what to do, and he could gain fame and recognition, but he does need to be cautious not to become greedy. I would say he's gained fame because he has been all over the news. Finally, in his 12th house of Aquarius is the sun. Sun in the 12th house can tell us that at times he could lack self-esteem. He can have this level of mystery. He's someone that needs his privacy and solitude to restore and reset, but he may have felt that his father was unavailable to him, as sun is the indicator of father. He can be creative, intelligent, scientific, analytical. He can be hardworking. He can really have this capacity for new ways of thinking, but he may at times be disconnected from reality. So he's going to need to keep that reality check. Granted, it's in a house ruled by Saturn, so that is going to help keep his feet a little more on the ground, but not always, because he does have Moon in the first, using the Moon as the ascendant. Saturn rules his 12th house, and being in the 11th house can really indicate that he may have unusual friends, but he could have trouble maintaining friendships and social contacts, and at times he could feel depressed, hopeless, and frustrated. Finally, Sun is in the lunar mansion of Purva Bhadrapada, which can indicate really good logical skills. He can gain prosperity through cleverness. This can be good or bad. And he may be good at reading people. He can gain money from wealthy people, and he may be more interested in serious conversations or like philosophical conversations. For him, he does need to be cautious, as he may not always think far enough ahead, and he really has this ability to sway the masses. I thought this was a really interesting chart, again, because normally I stick to marriage, death, kids, you know, other major situations, but I thought his chart was really interesting working off of the Moon. I would love to see a time of birth for him, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch, you know, what he does in the future and what it holds for him going forward. But he's got this intelligent mind. He's got that Moon Mercury, which he can get too much in his head at times as well. So stay tuned for more. If you want free newsletter, I'll put the link below to get the free newsletter, which gives both who's in the news, and I also do predictions every month for the signs, and there's a lot that I don't put in what gets posted to my website. So you have to get my newsletter, which I will post below, so sign up below. If you enjoy these videos, like and follow this channel so that you get notifications when more come out and you can watch them more easily and just find them easily. So until next time, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the future later for more of Who's in the News. And if you ever find somebody that you think is interesting, please put it in the comments, or, you know, reach out to me or get my newsletter and share with me who you would find interesting. Or also you can share on social. So follow me on social at Mind Soul Journey on Instagram and on Facebook at Mind Soul Journey as well. So do those, like this video, follow social. If you have anyone you may be interested in, send it my way. I would love to see who you find interesting. So let me know, and I will see y'all later.